Peace and love. How is everyone doing? Thank you for joining us on another edition of the RAM Book Club, Resurgence of the African Mind, where we seek to liberate African minds by reading one unit of work at a time. As you know, we are starting off with the heavy hitter, Blueprint for Black Power by Amos Wilson. We have to push it through, where we seek to liberate African minds. Oh, no. Yeah, that's this. Okay, I think it's going now. Okay, so we're on chapter 12 right now, family. The economic order and power. My name is Lily La Poete Speaks. Every week, if you want to join us on the panel, or if you would just like to listen in the discussion, then you can go to lilylapoetespeaks.com. And there, when you get there, you can go to the Blueprint for Black Power tab, which is right up under the RAM Book Club tab. And then you can scroll down, family, and attain the link that you would like. And we would ask that you join us, of course. And we appreciate you joining us. Let me give you a quick rundown here. So last week, we did half of the chapter, family. Last week, we talked about economic powerlessness, means of political powerlessness. We talked about the American community as a colony, economic segmentation. We talked about the decline of the economy. We talked about U.S. competitiveness, the lapses, lags, and losses. And we also talked about the American decline in relevance to the Black decline. This week, we're going to be talking about jobs and how they move abroad. We're going to be talking about the powerlessness of the government to resolve human problems. We're going to be talking about reactionary outcomes of global competition, losing ground, taking charge of economic destiny, and I can't even read my own writing, family, and a contrary point of view. So once again, my name is Lisa La Poete Speaks. I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves, and thank you for joining us, family.
Peace and power, Hotep. Bibi Fahode, Alafia. My name is Dr. Deanna Bailey, also known as Dr. Oya. I am the co-founder of Ed Anime Productions. I am also an adjoint professor at the School of Engineering at Morgan State University. I teach digital communications, wireless communications. Next semester, I'll be teaching signal processing. I look forward to the discussion. When we were offline before we went live, we were talking about the Dr. Claude Anderson lecture that was held by Reality Speaks down here in Baltimore City last night. And a lot of the stuff that Dr. Amos Wilson mentions in this particular chapter, the economic order and power, it ties into a lot of things that Dr. Claude Anderson and also Dr. Boyce Watkins, a lot of the things that they speak about. The bottom line, family, is that we have to begin to practice group economics, or within, I think, AT, did he say within the next 10 years or 20 years, Black people will be fifth-class citizens here in the United States. But after, and this is what I was getting ready to say to you, Sister Alima, before we went live. In order for us to practice group economics, remember Dr. Amos Wilson in the previous chapters talked about group consciousness. Right. And so we need a group. I think before we practice group economics, we need to be on the same page as far as our mentality.
Right.
And so that's why platforms like this is so important. The resurgence of the African mind, because the resurgence of the African mind will promote group consciousness. And once we obtain group consciousness, then we will be able to practice group economics, group politics, group whatever. But we have to adopt a group consciousness. And only then will we be able to practice group economics. So I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic to the other brothers and sisters on the panel. I'm happy to be here and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Hey, I think I'm here. Can y'all hear me? Or is my internet jacking up?
You sound real good today.
Oh man. I wasn't planning on doing no reading because I'm researching some good internet. But hey, everybody, peace and blessings. My name is Camille Gaynor Jones. I am a drummer by trade, a producer, a musician, a teacher. I do clinics, and I also run a pre-production studio. And it's an honor to be here, building on Dr. Amos Wilson's book. And I'm going to pass the mic to the next panelist.
Hello, family. Peace and Black Power. My name is Johnson Toe, Baltimore. by trade. I'm a histotechnologist in anatomical pathology laboratory at Mercy Hospital here in Baltimore. Getting more active in some programs to get involved in helping some people in our community, but definitely enjoying the panel and also the reading of Barbara Wilson's book, Blueprint from Black Power. Every time I open it up, I definitely learn a lot, and definitely learn a lot from this panel. So, good evening.
Good evening, brother. Brother Travis?
Peace, fam. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Peace, fam. This is Brother Travis from Detroit. Again, this is a powerful group, and I'm definitely want to. Did he make a video by any chance, Dr. Claude Anderson, Dr. Maya, out of that lecture?
Yeah, I would like to see that as well. Dr. Maat, you on mute?
And I'm up here like, absolutely, just okay. But absolutely, the video should be available. I'll grab it from Brother Jabari of Reality Speaks this week. And if you all, I mean, he spoke for 1 hour and 20 minutes. So if you all want to like view it together as a group and just kind of comb through it, I'm with that. Or if you want
yes, let's do that.
We can do that.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so I'll grab the video file from Brother Jabari this week, and we can, look at it as a group. But I'm telling you, he dropped some powerful jewels. But he had to rush out. He said that his knee was bothering him. And I'm telling you, Sister Lima, T and we showed up with our books. We were, waiting to get our picture. We thought we were going to get our picture taken and our book signed.
Sister Camille got hers.
Yes, I purchased mine last night, but unfortunately he had to jet out because he said that he suffered from like a knee injury, so he had to leave. So it was unfortunate that we didn't get a chance to meet him and get our book signed and take pictures. But yeah, to answer your question, a video will be available this week. I'll grab it so that we can watch it as a group.
And the issue is that we're at war with Europeans. And so the thing is that their strategy will be, due to white supremacy, is to disempower us. I just think about my people who got ran from Mississippi up north, burned out in Tupelo. That's how we got to the north. That I'm thinking of, and it was a big migration in the mid 1930s of blacks leaving the South, due to the factories and the war, moving to California and moving to Detroit, Chicago, in the manufacturing plants, because there was a lot of jobs that became available due to the war.
Right.
Many of them were able to, develop themselves economically to a better position than they were in the South. I'm thinking that we need to begin to experiment. Maybe it's time for another migration. I mean, we've tried civil rights. We've tried, Black Wall Street. I think that it's time for us to begin to, maybe not our generation, but to prepare the youth for another migration out of the white, out of America. I think that's the solution that we need to be moving to, as opposed to trying to keep up with what Europeans are talking about, what we need to do economically here.
Absolutely.
That needs to be the strategy.
What Sister Alima's going to say? She's going to say repatriation. That's what you're talking about, brother.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And one thing you said, Brother Travis, which was very profound when you began speaking, you said that we are at war with Europeans. But see, most Black people don't understand that we are at war with Europeans because they don't have guns in our faces, or because we don't see tanks, riding down our streets. So we don't think that we're at war, but we are. We are.
Yes.
And also, Brother Travis, I just want to, just for the viewers, I know you talked about the Great Migration that took place in the 1930s. It started in 1915.
That's right.
Read this book, The War
Sons
by Isabel Wickerson. This is a great book. Yes, I read this book from cover to cover, and I was proud of myself. I was like, wow, this is the first 500 and some page book I ever read. But I'm telling you, it's like one of those books you can read 30 or 40 pages a day. Because her writing style was very easy, but she talks about that in The Warmth of Other Suns. So she talks about the Great Migration that took place between 1915 and 1970, and she talks about the different wars, which precipitated the Industrial Revolution. And so this is a great book to have.
I'm gonna order that right
Great book to
now.
have.
I've been seeing that book posted on Facebook on my page by so many people. So
Oh,
something is telling me I need to go ahead and read that.
Brother Travis, when I said I literally read this book probably within a week and a half. That's how interesting it is. And she provides the readers with so much history. I mean, it's just
What's the title again, sis?
it's called The Warmth of Other Suns by Isabel Wilkerson. And this is the sister right here. She's definitely a sister, and she did her research. And I love how at the end of the book, with her research methodology right here, and that was very important for me. Notes on methodology. So it wasn't like the sister was just writing a novel and didn't give you anything. She told you exactly how she put this book together. She explains it, all of the steps, every step of the way. She explains her research methodology at the back. So I really love this book, and if people want to familiarize themselves with why we migrated out of the South, please purchase The Warmth of Other Suns. Great book to have.
Just ordered it. Just ordered it. Yes, indeed.
All right. So, okay, we all introduced ourselves. Go ahead, Sister Alima. You want to kick it off? Powerlessness of government to solve human problems.
Yes. Okay, so let's see, what did I have here? I didn't have too much on this list. I had the Mises list, where they started at, says a number of issues which concern people and the need of priority attention in government on page 270. So that's where I started highlighting that. And the Mises list here, it talks about, it's supposed to be a priority list of attention for the government. And it says that the first priority is given to policies which enhance a nation's ability to survive global competition. In this political context, the Mises argue even the best intentioned of national leaders are powerless to move person-centered social justice priorities up from the bottom of their country's agenda. A review of the above priorities accurately expresses the social concerns of the African American community. If these priorities are made subservient to national security and international economic competition concerns, then the issues most vital to the survival and enhancement of the African American community will receive inadequate or no resolution.
Oh, okay. Okay, so I see where you at, sis.
You on page 2 what?
She just read
270.
270.
270 to 271.
Gotcha. I'm right there. Okay.
Yeah, I kind of like started at the list. That's where I found the most importance.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to say on 271 at the bottom and 270, Dr. Amos Wilson pointed out to us that their main concern is national security. It has nothing to do, it's military and economic security. Those are the top priorities. So regardless of whether you have a Democrat or Republican in office, he said regardless of who is the head of states, or regardless of who you have in the local, the state and local governments, their top priority is military and economic security for America. Their top priority is not our social problems, okay?
Exactly.
At the bottom, he says, first priority is given to policies which enhance a nation's ability to survive global competition. So that is our country's agenda, all right? So that's all I had highlighted on that page as well.
Right.
So let's move on, sis, to the demands of global capitalism.
Right. It was I remember what Dr. Claude Anderson said last night. And he mentioned about capitalism, and it said capitalism has always required a highly unequal social order.
That's right.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it's an exploitative system.
Exactly. That's the essence of it.
Yeah, it can't exist without somebody on the bottom.
That's right.
Right. So
gotta have somebody to capitalize on.
Right.
Yep.
What is the group about?
And that's how they sold the American dream, as he mentioned last night.
Facts.
Basically saying that the American dream for immigration, the immigrants that came over, was land, labor, and free slaves. You know what I'm saying? In order to develop the land. So the American dream was never for us.
Exactly.
We were just part of the equation to give others the opportunity.
That's right.
You know, so.
And I go to some lectures when Black people make the term of that we just don't practice Black capitalism. you know, or we're being exploited because we're not using capitalism as a system. You know, I'm just wondering, is that the system that we should be using?
I don't think they understand.
Well, we can't use it.
But I think
because
to be in a system, to
been
use the
locked
system of
out of
capitalism,
it.
we would have to be in a position of power. How
Right.
can we
Exactly.
capitalize on people that when
Right.
we're powerless?
Yes.
We never do that.
Yeah, we were locked out of the capital.
Exactly.
That's right.
And you can't compete with people who print money.
That's
And-
right.
And control resources.
That's right. That's right.
That's
So
right. And control the resources. That's right, brother.
So the only solution is some type of communal system. That's the way we can instill our values and our culture and also our economic agenda.
That's right.
Mhm.
That's right, family. So we're talking about the demands of capitalism, as we know, and they get to talking about foreign investments and they talking about manufacturing. And it says that the Times reported that American companies employ 5.4 million abroad, 80% of them in manufacturing. And we know that the manufacturing industries, of course, have trickled down and have dissipated here in America, and they have been moved abroad. Oh, so at the bottom here, this was the third paragraph. While manufacturing represents some 40% of American foreign investment, the percentage of investment outlays for retail, finance, and service facilities rose twice as rapidly as those for manufacturing. I thought that was interesting.
I just want to interject. When they move, and look at the places that they move the manufacturing jobs.
Right. Europe, Canada,
Japan, China,
Mhm.
Singapore, Hong Kong. Not in Africa. Not in Africa.
Not in Africa. Africa never gets anything. You know what I mean? Unless people are coming to capitalize more on Africa, that's the only time.
That's right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this gives credence. This gives credence to racism being a global thing.
Yes.
You know how Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and even Dr. Nellie Fuller, when they talk about racism being a system, they say that it's a national or local, it's a local, national, and also a international, a global system. So we can see how just looking at these statistics, we see that Africa was left out, and that was intentionally done.
Exactly.
They draw natural resources from Africa.
That's right.
So instead of the man-made resources of the Industrial Revolution they put abroad, they already took what they needed from Africa. That's the natural resources, the oil, the diamonds, the gold, the silver. So they use that for a whole nother purpose. If you sit down and think about it. But the one thing that's amazing about this page here, Sister Lima, I just read, is that all the big companies move abroad to remove themselves away from taxes and other challenges staying here. But the number one reason is to move cheap labor.
Mm-hmm.
So because we don't own any jobs, own any businesses, of big industrial businesses, all we have left are jobs. So he did talk a lot about that, and then later on in the next couple of pages about how we left out because all we have is jobs.
That's right. That's very true, brother. We going on to the next section. He says, "In change in the power relations between global capital and labor, while opening a factory abroad implies or actually means that one in the U.S. may be closed. An equally important ramification of this process is the change in power relations between big capitalists or the financial corporate elite and labor. And in regard to our central concern here, the change in power relations between this elite and the state. That a favorable change in power relations between itself and labor and the state is as important to the financial corporate elite as is the movement of manufacturing, finance, retail, research, and service facilities abroad as a means of enhancing profits is implied in a statement reportedly made by Thomas Skelly." Then I went on to the next page where he talks about what Skelly is talking about. So basically, Skelly starts talking about the Gillette company. And they talk about the Gillette company and its expansion, and they wouldn't expand it in Boston, where the production was started 2 years ago. They said they would create additional jobs in the U.S. rather than adding the extra capacity to its Berlin plant.
Mm-hmm.
They said they were also concerned about having one place where a product is made. The emphasis that we placed on Skelly's reference to labor problems speaks to the fact that placing manufacturing and other productive facilities abroad, global capitalists are able to neutralize or negate U.S. labor's powers to successfully execute its wage and benefit demands on industry by using the labor strike as its most effective tool. Global capitalists are increasingly able to counter labor's attempts in this direction by making up for production losses due to strikes in the U.S. by increased production elsewhere and through the importation of the relevant products in the U.S. market by other means. So they're basically saying that, like, even if when companies in the U.S. try to rally and try to, you know, get them to stop moving these companies or whatever, it doesn't matter. They're going to move the companies. We're going to be out of the jobs. It really doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter. You can call the union. It doesn't matter. They're still going to move the jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And they said they actually use that as to their benefit, labor
right.
strikes.
Right. Sister Lima, ma'am, can I go to the bottom of page 272 for a second?
Yes, brother.
Okay, at the bottom of 272, in the paragraph, what is the change in the power relations between global capital and the state? One of the things that was stressed last night, it was that when we don't have businesses, we depend on social services. If we don't have social services, we steal and kill. So at the bottom of 272, it says America's competitive edge in international trade. Global capital uses the capacity to increase unemployment by withholding domestic investment, by transferring jobs abroad, by refusing to fund national, state, and local debt, and thus force the state to reduce its social costs, welfare, unemployment benefits, etc. So, because they move abroad, where does it leave us? And I think it rings true what Dr. Claude Anderson said last night, along with Bobby Wilson right here. If we don't have anything, if we don't have strong businesses, if we don't have that strong sense of community, the next thing we're going to do is rob and steal, because we don't have anything to hold us. And they don't care that that's stopping us from being productive. They don't care if they're cutting welfare. They don't care if we don't have any jobs. So it's like it's right here in black and white. And I just remember that one thing being said by Dr. Claude Anderson: businesses, social services, and next after that, stealing.
That's it.
So,
that's right.
All we have left.
And we just had a conscious business get killed. A young man was killed 4 days ago here in Detroit. The water station. They produce water. The alkaline water here in Detroit. What happened was the young brother was in the business that they were working at 7 p.m. that night here in Detroit. They were taking out the garbage and they were robbed. And one of the young men, maybe he was probably about 24, 25, was killed 4 days ago here in Detroit. Ties right into what you're saying, brother. Robbed and killed.
My apologies. I had a good friend of mine. He's an older gentleman, age 62, retired military. And he would sell a couple things out of his house, loose cigarettes, maybe beer, just do enough to make ends meet. Well, the neighborhood known him for doing that until on Thursday night at 9 p.m., they knocked on his door and tried to rob him with a knife. As he bust through his door, he grabbed his gun and shot the intruder dead. Now, the intruder was a 28-year-old man. And you think as an able-bodied individual, and you would ask yourself, what are you doing taking from others? It's because it's getting rough out here. What they're getting to is robbing, because it's getting that rough. And it's not even 2018 yet of the new tax bill. And it's getting rough already. So we have to be aware that these are all because of big businesses doing what they're doing.
Yes, that
one of the reasons.
Poverty in those situations are designed. They know that if they cut resources and they don't put any jobs in the poorest areas, people are going to resort to killing and robbing, and then they can lock them up and keep that industry going.
All by design. But who would take the time to go back and examine the actual cause?
Exactly, and they plan all this stuff out, you know. It's part of a different type of slavery, you know, economic deprivation.
Right. Right.
I don't know where we at, family. Where we at?
We had
273. Second paragraph, right?
Yes.
The state is now less. Okay, so I started at this juncture. At this juncture, even a progressive African American, if a progressive African American were elected president of the U.S., he or she would ascend to office at that point where it would be least able to positively impact on Black social problems. In addition to white racism, its old nemesis, the African American community, is now faced with a new nemesis in the form of the negative fallout from the globalization of labor, which will have an impact on the community equal to or greater than that of racism. Oh my goodness. What is that noise?
I just muted his mic.
Okay. Where am I at?
We're talking about the dilemma.
This dilemma, the dilemma of having to deal with the detrimental impacts of both racism and globalism simultaneously, defines the critical vulnerability of the contemporary African American and Pan-African communities. It is to this dilemma that this volume speaks. We believe that our proposals for enhancing Black power point to its only viable resolution. And of course, we all know that that's very true. And what he says is true. Not only is it racism, but it's globalism. So like Dr. Maat was just saying, it's global racism everywhere that we have to encounter. So that's why it's important for not only the African American community, but like he stated, the Pan-African communities to form some type of alliance like Baba Garvey was trying to do. You know, it's important that we try to pick up in his footsteps and carry that on, because he started off really great, you know. It really did. Dr. Maat, you want to kick it off for us? Reactionary outcomes of global competition?
No problem. What I have highlighted at the beginning of this section is what the goal of big businesses. And the goal of big business is to increase productivity and cut costs, right? That's their goal. Yes. And it says right here at the bottom of page 273, many firms are increasingly resorting to the use of contract labor and job temps. Do you guys remember? I remember when I started college back in 1999, you know, working at a temp agency was the thing to do. Like all of a sudden it was just like like temp agencies just sprouted up. And
that's right.
90s. So he's saying that firms, you know, in order to increase productivity and cut costs, you know, that they hire contractual labor. I remember you had people who were, I think it's called 1099. You had a lot of 1099 employees, or you had people working for temp agencies. All right. So, and then he goes on to quote from Wall Street Journal, which was published on March the 11th, 1993. And I have highlighted here that the journal recently chronicled in detail an approach to industrial organization. The industrial organization it refers to as re-engineering. Re-engineering involves the reconfiguration, redesign, and reconstruction of the workplace, the workforce, and its procedural organization in ways meant to maximize its efficiency and productivity while simultaneously reducing the number of its personnel. All right. So they had this big thing that came about called re-engineering and reconfiguring the workplace. You know, but in order to benefit them, it wasn't to benefit us. So when they wanted to reduce the personnel. So it says some analysts, oh man, I have a lot highlighted right here. Some analysts estimate that the re-engineering may wipe out as many as 25 million jobs in the private sector economy, which employs approximately 90 million people. So that's 65 million people out of a job due to re-engineering. So we got to keep in mind that this article was published in 1993. It would be very interesting to see the actual number. I know that this was a projection that they made in 1993, that this whole re-engineering approach would cut about 65 million jobs. Would be definitely interested in seeing how many jobs they actually cut. All right.
It's not that many, because I actually yesterday was looking at, I'll send you the link. I'll put the link in here too. It's a guy, he's an economist, and I started following him on YouTube, and he posts a lot of videos and things, and he was showing different scales of like the economic declines and things like that of the US, but it definitely hasn't been anything drastic like that.
Would you, Sister Lima, when you say that, what do you mean? You talking about in unemployment or?
As far as like the growth in the economy.
Right, okay.
So, you know, if we lost like that many millions of jobs, that would be a huge drastic dip in the economy. Like nothing has been that drastic, but you know, like we had dips.
One thing I wanted to stress during the Obama administration, it was perceived that we had raised the jobs, that our unemployment was decreased, correct? But when you examine the data, you got caught in they call it the tech age. This is because everything. Think about Uber, Lyft, Amazon. What happens is these jobs. There are many jobs that they provide for our citizens, correct? But what they did, thousands up to millions work for Lyft, Uber, and Amazon. But what Uber did was change the labor laws. So they took a lot of benefits that you would have gotten if you was a taxi driver, because you became 1099. So that perceived notion that he made the jobs increase really was the deals he made with the temp agencies. And then if you go back and look at the research, you see that African Americans were discriminated against in Chicago and abroad, because temp agencies wanted to hire Hispanics. So even then, we were still priced out. We were still locked out of jobs, even at temp agencies. So remember, even though it didn't look like it dropped, it really did. It was the quality of jobs that we gained.
Okay,
and
okay.
Most of those jobs were tech jobs.
I see what you're saying. Thanks for that, brother.
So he goes on to talk about reengineering. And I'm sorry, at the bottom it says that these job losses may include millions of service workers, such as clerical workers, supervisors, middle managers, and support workers. He says, interestingly, the journal reports that layoffs due to reengineering may hit hardest at the level of middle management, who ranks now constitute 18 to 22% of workers let go. But then on page 275, he goes on to say that, however, not all of the job losses suffered by professionals are due to reengineering and recession or to foreign competition, but also due to the fact that American firms are hiring high-skilled workers abroad for lower pay to perform jobs once reserved for American professionals.
Exactly.
Highly skilled workers from Asia, the former Soviet bloc, and Europe are also being employed by American companies to temporarily replace American professionals in America itself. So you got people that are you have people who are high skilled people who are working for less. You know, you have a lot of us who will say, I'm not working that job. I don't want that $30,000 a year job. And then you have, you know, an Asian, you know, or, you know, an Arab saying, or Indian, a person from India saying, I'll take it, I'll do it. So that's another issue. So he, at the bottom of 275, he says the idea popular in the Clinton administration that U.S. workers can raise their own wages or job prospects by acquiring more skills. So he's saying that, you know, we think that in order to, you know, back during the Clinton administration, it was this push for education. It was this push to acquire more skills. And that was supposed to be the solution to getting better jobs and better wages. But Dr. Amos Wilson, or I think he's quoting from the journal is basically saying, well, wait a minute, it makes you want to revisit this. Is it that, you know, we need to go to school to get more education, to get more skills? And remember, Brother T,
exactly.
Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about that last night, that we keep pushing our children to go to school to get all of these degrees and skills. And when they come out, they're still not being hired. So that's a myth that you need to go to school, get your bachelor's, get your master's, get your PhD. because now we see that we have all of these skills, and then you're walking around with your fancy degrees and you can't get a job. So the journal that was the publication in 1993, they were saying, well, wait a minute, we may have to revisit this idea that was pushed during the Clinton administration. So that was the quote that I had just, that's the quote I just provided at the bottom of page 275. So I don't have anything else for page 275. Does anyone else have anything highlighted on page 275?
Not really.
Okay.
I just thought it was interesting though that he talked about how the jobs moving abroad had doubled, but then he said that many foreign professionals also come to the U.S. to get their training. So I thought that was interesting. So they come over here and get their free training or whatever, and then they go back over there and take the money back abroad.
Right.
Especially education.
Exactly. Come get the free education and everything, and then go back home to work.
Yep, and they get paid lower than we would. Like you said, they come over, they get the skills.
But guess what? They get paid lower, but the jobs are plentiful.
And not to mention in other countries, our money stretches further. So
Absolutely.
a $30,000 job over here, if I was in Senegal, would probably be like a $75,000 job. See what I'm saying? So I'd actually be living really well.
Right.
Exactly.
Absolutely. So on page, did you want to say something, Brother Travis?
No, I was just agreeing with the sister. And what happened was, to make a point that he made even stronger, is that a lot of times corporations will set up companies overseas, and they'll get the training over there, and they'll already have a job, like he was saying in the book, to work with that particular company. And the company actually, American companies actually sets up businesses and corporations in foreign countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because he was talking, he said that, I think we might have missed that part, but he was talking about how these American companies will train these employees, but they'll also set up companies overseas.
Exactly.
Right.
Because it's cheaper. It saves them oodles of money. It saves them so much money.
Yeah, he mentioned that, Brother Travis, in the first half of this chapter, last week discussion.
Got you.
When he talked about foreign direct investment. And that was the first half of this chapter. So on page 276, he says that Richard Friedman, a Harvard labor economist, suggests that the current changes in the American industrial sector threatens to bring a further division in society between those who have long-term jobs and those who lose jobs. He said we will see a further increase in the income inequality problem. All right, Bloomberg in 1980 speaks directly to this issue when he contends the United States has entered a period in which growth is no longer an alternative to redistribution. I'm repeat that. The United States has entered a period in which growth is no longer an alternative to redistribution. As the size of the pie remains relatively constant, a larger slice for one group necessarily means a smaller slice for everyone else.
Capitalism.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Absolutely. So Baba Amos Wilson tells us at the top of page 277, he says the African American community must drastically revise its social and economic practices and organization if it is to ensure its economic survival, to greatly expand its economic and political power and achieve its financial goal for liberation for oppression. However, and hold up, and let me say something that a thought just came to mind. There in Baltimore, and Brother T can attest to what I'm saying, they have dollar homes in Baltimore. All of us on this panel have $1. Right?
Same thing here in Detroit.
We can get $1. They're doing it in Detroit, or we can do it in Detroit. We can grab some of these homes up, right? And pull our resources together to rehab these homes. I know brothers know plumbers. I know plumbers. I know electricians. I know carpenters. I know people that can drywall, paint. Let's get together and create businesses. It's doable. I'm just so at a point where I'm tired of talking about it. There we go, Brother T. I'm just, Sister Lima, I'm like so tired of talking about it. I'm like, y'all, let's go do it. Like, I so want to go to one of the neighborhoods, put up a business right across the street from one of those Asian businesses and shut it down. and say, this is what we need to do, and show them this is what we need to do in every Black community. Don't boycott, replace.
Right.
And I've been saying
Exactly.
for months that Black people need to upgrade our thinking.
Exactly.
Stop boycotting. That's fine. We got that down pat. We'll boycott a gas station. We'll boycott a beauty supply store. We'll boycott, but we need to boycott and replace. You know what I mean? So Black folks, we got to upgrade our thinking. So, you know, we got to.
The Homestead Act. That's right.
We say, Brother T?
That $1 housing, the Homestead Act that they used years ago in order to build, allow people to build on land and buy a lot of homes. That $1 housing, we just have to make sure that all the discriminatory practices are removed. You know, so we definitely can do it, but we have to make sure that the red line's not there. That's why I showed this book, because it talks about it right in this book.
Yeah, that's an excellent book.
How they did the discrimination and how they kept us away from the $1 housing. So we come there with $100 in each pocket, but they'll say, well, you know what, you can't do it, but I won't sell to you. They don't have a law, a policy to keep us away. We got to come lawyered up with our lawyers as well to make sure that we get what we're supposed to get.
Absolutely.
But we have to know they don't do the auction for the $1, and they won't tell us. So we have to do it. We have to do it, you know, effectively, like you said.
Absolutely. So Baba Amos Wilson says, okay, to ensure economic survival, to greatly expand its economic and political power and achieve its final goal of liberation from oppression. However, for these things to occur, the African American community must not only vastly increase its economic power, but must also implement the economic empowerment of the Pan-African community as well. So now, that's right. I was going to say, sister, say it again. However, for these things to occur, the African American community must not only vastly increase its economic power, but also implement the empowerment of the Pan-African community as well. All right. So it's not just us over here in the US. We need to also empower. We also need to connect with our brothers and sisters on the continent, our other brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Unite, organize, and execute, right? So it can't just happen in the US. Baba Amos Wilson is saying that this has to be a global thing, all right? He says its economic and political alliance with the African motherland is crucial in this respect. The African American and continental African communities must mutually empower each other if either is to survive happily in the future. An economically strong African continent is necessary for strong Black America, and both for an economically strong Pan-African worldwide community.
That's right.
Now, that's Black power. That's Black power. We yell it, but that's Black power.
That's right.
That's power.
So losing ground.
Sister Camille, you want to get into it? Is her sis?
Oh, me? Talking to me?
You know what?
No, but I was breaking up, so you know I got the bad internet over here. So when you asked me, I didn't hear.
It's been okay today.
It's been good.
Okay. Yeah.
Losing ground. Economic recessions, unemployment, and the concomitant social and economic problems they generate may be caused by any number of factors, including the traditional slowdown.
Just when we gave her a compliment.
I'm breaking up.
We jinxed it.
We jinxed it.
I'm trying to stay out today.
we did this.
Y'all got it. I'm listening.
Okay, we got you, Queen. Brother Travis or Brother T or somebody. Come on, brothers. Losing grounds.
I know the brothers need to read. They disappeared last week.
Unemployment and the committed social and economic problems they generate may be caused by a number of factors, including the traditional slowdowns in consumption, saturation, and contractions of markets, failed governmental policies, competitive conflicts, to name a few. There are some analysts who contend that sometimes recession are more or less deliberately engineered by a segment of the corporate elite as means of increasing surplus labor, especially in an economy nearing full employment, which strengthens the bargaining power of organized labor. Therefore, by creating a sizable unemployment or underemployment workforce, big capital is positioned to discipline labor by threatening increased layoffs if wage demands, work rules, or other benefits to workers are not held in abeyance or reduced. That's crazy. So even if it's here in America, they're like, you know what? We're not going to give you a raise.
Right.
I need you to take this dollar less. I'm not going to put into your 401k this year. I need you to be quiet, or we're going to take these jobs over to China.
Exactly.
And they scare people.
That's right.
So they've gotten so slick now. They say, you know what? Forget it. We're not going to offer you nothing. We don't want no skilled labor. So it's like it's just so crazy. These are the things, the reason why they move the jobs out.
That's right.
Because we've been priced out, man. We've been priced out. And it's a shame.
And I just wanted to add one thing. That first line that you read, economic recessions, unemployment, and the concomitant social and economic problems they generate, right? Remember, I remember reading a statistic, this was years ago. They were saying the number one cause for divorce. It used to be infidelity, right? But then remember, I think like finances were like the top, it was one of like the top 3 causes.
That's right.
So we got to understand that when being impoverished, right, it precipitates, it brings about a lot of other problems, and it causes, or it's the root of a lot of our social problems. So you have marriages that don't work because people are stressed out over finances.
That's right.
I just wanted to kind of bring that to light. I thought about that when
just to piggyback on that, it will continue. If the wife, the husband, not bringing that money in to take care of the finances, don't have enough money to save or prepare for the kids' futures. You know what I'm saying? It's like, how are we going to survive?
Absolutely.
You have to work 2 to 3 jobs. Children's not saying mama. Children's not saying daddy. Well, how are we supposed to survive?
That's right.
You know? So it's like we have
to make a lot of adjustments. Actually trying to live the American dream, and we're not even a part of it. You know.
Exactly. Say that, Queen.
Yeah, we have to really reassess where we. I don't think we really realize where we stand. You know, in economics. You know,
in adopting this value system that has nothing to do with us. You're right, Queen.
Exactly.
We don't know what the American dream is, and the reason is because
it's an American nightmare for us.
Right. We
it's a straight up nightmare.
We bought the image. We don't know what it is. If we found out it really meant that we were supposed to be the free labor, then we would stop trying to get the house and the picket fence, the one and a half dog. You know, I mean, we would throw away.
Well, that was a trick. You know, that was one of their tricks to seem like they were including us in the society to keep people from rising up and tearing the place. Mind control. Brainwashing. All you get is symbolism. Okay, because nothing changes. Exactly. Politically. It's all symbolism. It's all make believe.
That's right.
Absolutely.
I was listening to this Conscious Queen tonight here before we started this lecture. She's very popular in the conscious community. She's been married like 3 or 4 times, and she was just lecturing tonight. And it's like you were tying into the marriage situation. She's really caught into accumulating stuff. You know what I mean? Her whole genre. Yeah, her whole genre was this come up. She was really dealing with a lot of this westernized come up stuff. I'm just wondering if she was really perhaps that might be her issue. That her sense of value of the relationship was all of this stuff. You know what I mean? No, but materialism, right? Extreme individualism, and not really a program of talking about liberation. It was all about this stuff and getting to this next level of, she talking about how, you know, the Oprahs and really the goal.
You can't be materialism. That's impossible. You know, you're trying to.
Right. Her whole lecture
I'm sorry,
was
brother.
materialism. Go ahead, sister. But that's what I was thinking of. Maybe that's the issue. Maybe that's her issue.
Yeah, that's the issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think materialism is a lot of our issues.
Yeah. Overall, you know, hey, you got Black Friday coming up. People gonna lose their minds.
Yeah, you know it, Queen.
And go and spend their money with big businesses who are not investing. Big businesses who are not employing you.
Yes.
And then big businesses who aren't investing in your community. I'm so tired of Black people playing the fool. I'm like, why do we always have to play the fool? Always.
And then I must say, if you have to, because I'm not one to tell people what to do with their money. Okay, that's not how I roll. But if you must spend some money on Black Friday, why you can't shop with your people? Because I see Black people having Black Friday sales all the time. I had one last year. I think I may have sold one book. People do it. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to, then support your own. And even if you feel like you need to spend with somebody else, well, then make sure it's shit that you need. Like I say, if your baby don't have if her bed broke and now they got beds on sale, okay, buy your baby a bed. Don't go buy a television and toys and DVD players and all types of ridiculous things that we do every year on Black Friday that we don't need.
Absolutely. And I had a friend of mine, I'm gonna call her out. She graduated a year before me with her doctorate from Morgan. Her name is Dr. Antoinette. She's on Facebook. And I was asking her a few years back, I think Christmas time was coming around, and I asked her what the family was doing for her daughter. And she said, for Christmas, we buy our daughter shares. Each Christmas, they buy their daughter shares in Costco.
Nice.
So she's not a child that's running around with a bunch of toys and crap. For Christmas, that's what they invest in shares. And I think the little girl is about 8 or 9 right now with a bunch of shares in Costco's. So I just find that we purchase or we invest in things that don't sustain our children later on. Right. We'll buy the PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll go get the games. We'll go get the toys. We'll go get the remote control cars. I'm sitting here at 36 thinking about all the money that my mother spent on me for Christmas. Like I used to be able to dive in my toys, on Christmas. What is that doing for me now? I don't want this to come across as being ungrateful. You get what I'm saying?
No, I get it, Queen.
I had a marvelous Christmas. I remember having my tasty bake oven. I'm showing my age right now. My tasty bake oven. I had my
one of those.
Look, I had my strawberry shortcake kitchen set. I had my Raggedy Ann dolls. I had my Punky Brewster stuff.
Punky Brewster.
Yes, I had my Punky Brewster stuff. I got
excited right there, y'all.
I had my nice pink and white bike. My mom, she's a wonderful mom. And, I had a great Christmas. But I say all that to say, those toys, I can't use that at 36. You get what I'm saying? To sustain me or to advance me. So we got to start. I'm telling you, we really need to revamp or reform our value system. Because we have been induced with values that aren't conducive to our advancement and our growth as a people, and so I agree with you 100%, Sister Alima, that we're going to run Black Friday. They're not even doing it on Black Friday anymore. They open late Thanksgiving Eve,
right.
Like on Thanksgiving. It's open around 9, 10 o'clock at night. People are leaving. People are even finishing Thanksgiving dinner early to get to the sales on Thanksgiving night. So we're going to run in there. People are going to be arguing over flat screen televisions and arguing over electronics. And we're buying these things that will not sustain us, things that will not advance us. So we as African people, we need to adopt a different value system. I'm so tired of seeing brothers and sisters on bus stops with Gucci shoes and Louis Vuitton belts, but you're on a goddamn bus stop.
Exactly.
We need to really revamp and reform our value system.
All right.
But let's move on, y'all. Let's go to we're on page 278.
At the bottom, you at the bottom of 277.
You had something to say, T?
No, I said we was on the bottom of 277. Now I'm going to 278.
Okay, cool. So I'm in the affirmative act. Remember, Dr. Claude Anderson talked about that last night, Brother T, at the lecture.
Right. He said civil rights gave us nothing tangible.
Nothing tangible, right? And so, and it gave us affirmative action, but we didn't benefit. We weren't the beneficiaries of the affirmative action. White women and other minorities were the benefit of affirmative action. So that's why Dr. Amos Wilson labeled this section affirmative action, right? So he says, forced against its traditional races will by governmental edicts and public political pressure from the Black activist community to hire increasing numbers of Black Americans at all levels of its industrial and professional establishment. The white corporate establishment and the conservative white American community submitted to affirmative action with a vengeance. They would not only increase the hiring of Blacks, the original minority group, and the one with the most valid claims for preferential hiring and treatment, its unique history in America shared by no other ethnic or immigrant group, save Native Americans, but they would simultaneously increase the hiring of all excluded minority groups and women. This was affirmative action with a vengeance. He said the introduction of diversity in the workplace. All right. So remember, they had this diversity thing going on. I remember when you would go to different businesses and they would have things posted up around the business on diversity. But they weren't talking about us. They were talking about women, and they were talking about other minority groups. All right. Does anyone want to add before I go to page 279? Okay. So at the top of page 279, Dr. Amos Wilson says, an extensive analysis of the effects of the 1990 to 1991 recession on the employment of Blacks, whites, Asians, and Hispanics, the Wall Street Journal, which was published on September the 14th, 1993, graphically detailed the egregiously serious erosion of the Black American workforce in the corporate American workplace. He says in a 2-page spread entitled Losing Ground, in latest recession, only Blacks suffered net employment loss. It analyzed the reports of 35,242 companies filed with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, covering more than 40 million workers. So what they saw was this, that Blacks were the only racial group to suffer a net job loss during the 1990 to 1991 economic downturn. Whites, Hispanics, and Asians, meanwhile, gained thousands of jobs. All right. The nation's largest corporations shed Black employees at the most disproportionate rate. So then he presents a company called Dow Corporation for an example. So he goes on to say down the bottom that Blacks lost a net of 59,479 jobs at these businesses during the recession, which officially began in July 1990 and ended in March 1991, even though I think that we're still in the recession. He says that, but while we were losing, the next bullet says the Asians gained a net of 55,104 jobs during the recession, and the Hispanics also gained a net of 60,040 jobs. Whites, who outnumber Blacks nearly 8-to-1 at these companies, gained 71,144 jobs. So while they're on the news telling us that the company is in a recession, we were the ones who lost the most amount of jobs. So while we were losing jobs, Asians and whites were increasing. They were gaining jobs. All right. So it says that Blacks, we were the only group to lose service worker positions, dropping 16,630 such jobs, while businesses added 53,548 new ones. We were the only group to lose sale jobs. Blacks did not show same progress in several highly prized white collar job categories. He says that they gained a disproportionately number of high managerial, professional, and technical jobs, but they held such a small percentage of these jobs before the recession began that their actual gains were meager.
Damn.
He says that educated Asians managed to gain jobs even in states that cut tens of thousands of workers. Overall, Asians gained jobs in mid-size and big business in 39 states, while blacks lost ground in 36 states. So go ahead.
So with the fight of the civil rights movement,
In 39
with the fight of the civil rights movement, we gave the opportunity to have access. So without all the fight, all the marching, all the boycott.
Mr. Camille, can somebody mute their mic? Because I think I hear like a delay. We good? Okay, go ahead, brother.
Okay.
I said, with the civil rights movement, with all the marching, all the boycotting, everything we did to fight, we got access, right? But that access was sold off to other minorities, well, Asians. Now, we fought for access, but we didn't get anything tangible. So once we got into the door, we could always say everyone was equal opportunity. They let everybody else in to compete against us, and everybody else won, and left us holding the bag. So, like Claude Anderson said last night, he made a point. He said, civil rights didn't give us anything but access, nothing tangible. And but we continue to ask for nothing. We think if we just have equal opportunity, we'll catch up. And right then and there, we see everybody was able to come through the same door, and everybody was the first one to get something in return, something from that from their work, and we're left out again. We need to find a better way. So we can't ask for access more. We need to ask for these resources.
Absolutely
right. But you know, they also keep telling black people that that's a handout. There isn't a group here that doesn't get government help.
Everybody got a handout.
Every year, everybody. But they tell black people that that's a handout, and we are owed that because they never gave us they never gave redress to our ancestors.
We didn't get the 40 acres. We didn't get the mule. We didn't get anything.
Right.
They said they conditioned us to feel bad for asking.
Right. Exactly.
Martin Luther King said, "Where is my check?" He was
right.
We want our check. You know, so give it to us. You know.
Yeah, that's the video I post anytime somebody from the dominant society, Martin Luther King. I said, well, check this video out because y'all want to talk about that. You know, little white boys, little white girls holding hands. This is the video. What you think about this one?
You talk about everybody
that kills all that noise. I'm like, yo.
One thing that Claude Anderson taught last night. He said George Washington, Thomas Jefferson received $100,000 worth of free land. Now, I guarantee you, neither one of those presidents said, "Hey, I don't want a handout." They received free land.
Well, that's what they were coming. That's what they were coming to the country for.
Think about it.
You know, all those other groups, they were coming here for free land. That's what they were given. They would come here.
Free labor, and they reaped all the benefits. And they putting out here by indoctrination. The indoctrination camps are called schools.
Because that's what they are, brother. That's what they are.
Don't ask for handouts. Just work hard. We worked hard. We got access to work in the same fields, and we got left with nothing. So.
No, absolutely. And then remember Dr. Amos Wilson in the previous chapter, or it may have been the chapter before that, he said that there's a welfarism that exists between the government and big businesses.
That's right.
You know, banks getting bailed out, billions of dollars given to them, millions of dollars getting bailed out, and you complaining about a sister getting her $1,000 check for her babies.
Right.
You worried about that when they're bailing out these big companies, giving them billions of dollars, millions of dollars, just giving away money. Look at what, and I'm glad you brought this to my attention, Brother T, or the panel's attention a few weeks back, how the Obama administration gave millions of dollars to Holocaust survivors.
Right.
And the Holocaust didn't happen on this soil. It happened abroad. But they gave him, how much money was it to you? Wasn't it like 12 million or 20 million?
$12 million.
He gave him 12 million.
Earmarked for him. And Germany still giving money. Up, say a lot of money. They have gained billions when it come down from something called the Holocaust.
Right, but we're supposed to feel bad for asking for reparations, something that is owed to us. That's not begging. We're asking for something that is owed to us.
Exactly.
But see, we don't, the difference between us and the Jews and all the other people who receive reparations is who is our representative? Who speaks on behalf of of African Americans to demand politically that we are due? Nobody. And we definitely don't really speak as a collective, so it doesn't hold any weight.
Well, Baba Claude Anderson, he had a policy up there. He had some something going on up in Washington for reparations, which Obama shot down. He said that other immigrants would, Obama, that wouldn't fail the immigrants that's coming here. Really, that got to do with us. If you come here on your own, that's America doesn't owe you anything.
Obama said out his own mouth that African Americans do not need reparations.
Wow.
Yes. I was really cool on him at that point. I was like, what?
He said out his mouth.
Yeah.
So I mean,
yeah, he was like it wouldn't be fair to. I'm like, what do that got to do with African Americans, descendants of slaves from this country? That has nothing to do with them coming here. You come here because you want to come here. America doesn't owe you anything.
What I like to do is examine.
America owes us something.
What I like to do is examine the Black Caucus. They have a plan to get reparations. Anyone hear about that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you. Broke up, brother.
He said,
anyone examined? You hear me? You hear me?
We can hear you.
I
Okay.
can hear you now.
Did anyone ever examine their plan to get reparations?
No.
They have not talked to Dr. Claude Anderson, who's been fighting for reparations for over 20 years. They didn't even include Dr. Claude Anderson, in that reparations pact. So I don't even trust it. I think they've been hearing people at the grassroots talk about reparations so much. They have said, you know what, we got to say something about reparations. But after I heard them say it once on the news, I haven't heard anything else about reparations coming from the Black Caucus, the Congressional Black Caucus.
Oh, they're not supposed to say that. They're on Capitol Hill. You're not supposed to bring up anything.
But
of course not. What you're supposed to do is black people's mind that it's our fault that we're in the situation that we're in.
Right.
You gotta pull up yourself up by your bootstraps and all this. You hear them saying that is a complete lie.
But Sister Alima said it right. That's what the reason why I brought it up about the Congressional Black Caucus is because she said hit the nail on the head. Who represents Black people?
Right.
Who represents us? No one.
No one.
No one. Everyone's represented.
Well, those people are, because they've been appointed by white people to parrot what white people want to put into blacks' heads.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Redress.
So essentially, like you said, is a black face with a white mind.
Exactly.
What do you call them? Negropeans.
Exactly.
We have a bunch of Negropeans.
The black bourgeoisie.
Exactly. But look, y'all, this is a nice chart. We're not going to. But check this chart out when you get an opportunity. Folks who have the book or don't have the book, you can freeze, pause it and take a look at this later. But there's a chart that Dr. Amos Wilson provides on page 280 that lists the black losses that were most disproportionate. So he has like 4 columns. First column lists the company. Second column lists the percentage of blacks in the 1990 workforce within those companies. And then the third column lists the percentage of blacks of the total decline. So you'll see, for example, how like with Bank of America, the blacks represented maybe 7.9% in that company, but yet when they did layoffs, blacks were 28.11% of the layoff.
And
So
that's all of them. If you go through every single one of them, the amount that we represent is at least double that in which we were cut from jobs.
absolutely. Isn't that crazy, sis?
Mm-hmm.
So check that chart out, family, when you get an opportunity. Also, I have wow. Literally, I wrote wow. beside this plot. I was looking at this graph, and it's a graph. It says net employment changes from 1990 to 1991. 1,000 companies reporting. I hear something like it's like, I think it's you, Impul. It's like I keep hearing this squeaky sound, like, is it me, Sister Aleem, or you hear it too?
No, I heard it.
All right. So anyway, there's a graph that says, is a graph entitled Net Employment Changes from 1990 to 1991 and thousands at companies reporting to the EEOC. And the reason why I have wow beside the graph is because it's showing us the number of jobs that were gained and lost. But as you can see, for Asians, Hispanics, and whites, they gained jobs. And look at us. This is blacks. Look at us. We're in the negative. So Dr. Amos Wilson tells us at the time blacks were hit particularly hard. In Florida, losing jobs. He's talking about the corporations, blase, blah, 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 blah. He said only in 3 southern states, Alabama, Arkansas, and Louisiana, did blacks add a substantial number of jobs. So during this recession, Asians gained jobs, whites gained jobs, even Hispanics gained jobs, but we lost jobs. So then he says at the bottom of 281, many and diverse explanation for these startling statistics were offered by the spokespersons representing the companies involved. A number offered the obviously lame set of excuses that the markedly increased gains by whites, Hispanics, and Asians, in contrast to the marked decline of blacks, was the result of an unexplained sudden demographic shift, a statistical fluke, the unintentional fallout of corporate cutbacks and reorganization. So of course they're not going to admit that, look, we're just, it's racism.
Right.
You know, this was racial discrimination. They're not going to admit that. So what they did was they say, oh, it was a demographic shift, or it was a statistical fluke, or it was the unintentional fallout of the corporate cutback reorganizations. All right. So he's quoted from the journal, and the journal says this: the losses can be partially explained by blacks' relatively low seniority in companies and their heavy concentration in the types of jobs eliminated. Corporations' continuing decisions to abandon inner city offices, factories, and franchise outlets did not help blacks either. I'm at the top of page 282. But the demographic change suggests something more fundamental has occurred, a pronounced shift in the way affirmative action operates. Several companies with poor records of retaining blacks say they were mostly concerned with their aggregate minority employment rates and never calculated whether blacks bore a disproportionate share of cutbacks. Thus, they could claim to the government continued progress by minorities as a whole, even as blacks were suffering reversals, in some cases drastic ones. Black workers had their biggest setbacks at retailers. About half of their losses were in retailing, where blacks lost at a 50% higher rate than the overall workforce. All right. So then he goes on to describe a study that was conducted. He says at least one recent study suggests that racism still plays a role in some personnel decisions. In 1990, the Urban Institute sent out teams of black and white job applicants with equal credentials. The men applied for the same entry-level jobs in Chicago and Washington, D.C. within hours of each other. They were the same age and physical size, education and work experience, and shared similar personalities. Yet in almost 20% of the 476 audits, whites advanced further in the hiring process, researchers found. The simple answer is prejudice, says Marjorie, a senior researcher at the Urban Institute involved in the study. Clearly, blacks still suffer from unfavorable treatment. Does someone want to take it from here?
I didn't really have too much. You know, they started talking about the the black workers at USX and explained their what they went through and talked about the downsizing of the jobs and how they started to build the jobs back up, and then they didn't rehire the blacks.
But you know, sis, what was very important though on this page, on page 288, he talks about how they'll change the work rules or the qualifying criteria during reorganization. So remember, I remember my mom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember my mom used to say things like, "Wow, you know, the jobs that we had back in the day didn't require a bachelor's degree, but now all of a sudden you need a bachelor's degree job, right?" So at the top of page 283, he says that, you know, they will institute new rules or qualifying criteria to wean us out. And he gives a great example how the USX plant, how you had black people that were there, and then they said they gave them a test. I'm looking at the middle of page 283. It says suddenly blacks with 25 years seniority were being rejected for jobs because they couldn't read rulers, even though rulers weren't even used on the jobs. So they were using these different tests, these different qualifying criteria, new rules to wean us out. And so, you know, that's what I wanted to point out.
It reminds me of like the push they were doing in North Carolina, and they probably did it in other states back in, say, around 2007 or 8. And in order to get a lot of these manufacturing jobs, you had to have all these new certifications that basically before you just kind of either had to have the experience or like at least a GED. But now you have to take all these different types of tests, with a lot of them free, and then you got to get all these certifications in order to work at these jobs. And they don't even, I mean, it's $10, $11, you know, I mean, just a regular job, but you have to pay and take this time to get all of these certifications just to apply, not to get hired, but just to apply, just to even be considered. And like Dr. Maat said, it's just another way of keeping us out of the fold.
Yes, exactly.
What's really jacked up is we are the ones that laid the railroads and built buildings and laid stone. And then when they realized, wow, we can make money from this, you know, then they began to build and implement the labor laws and whatnot. And we're like, wait a minute, we're training these white dudes to do the same shit that y'all now about to bring in and pay them $25 an hour to do, when we was doing it for way less than that. It's definitely the same issue.
Exactly, brother.
Sister Lima, I can piggyback on what you said. I experienced that at my job. Coming in, I had to have my bachelor's degree, my major in biology, and I also had to have my histotechnologist certification as well. But when I got in, I realized I was the only one with a bachelor's degree and the histotechnology certification. The manager didn't even have a bachelor's degree.
Wow.
And she didn't have a certification, and she was making upward bounds of 90,000 plus bonuses. So when I got in, and I realized I was maybe one or two who were hired with the certification, they said you no longer need a certification. You can grandfather in with experience, and all you need is an AA degree and maybe certification. What that did was I won't be able to get paid the national average. Even though I have to renew my certification every 3 years, they say, well, you don't really need that certification.
Wow.
So I'll just have to get what they choose to give me, you know, as a raise, and no longer the national average of all histotechnologists in the United States, which was a trick. And they used one coworker who had the experience but couldn't pass the test as a scapegoat. They promised her a position, and then they said, oh, they went to HR, they removed the certification, and then they hired somebody in her position, and now she's left. I said, see what you did? You thought they had you in the best interest. But what
exactly.
You did was messed all of us up.
Wow.
You know? It was the bait and switch. They used her as a bait.
Typical.
To take away our privileges.
Exactly.
With the certification and the degree, I can say, you know what? I demand this based off my qualifications.
That's right.
His experience. You took all that away because you thought they were going to place you and give it to you for free off a favor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I laugh at it every day. I look at it over. I laugh.
Ooh, that's the game.
That's the game.
But that is the game we play. But you know what? I'll add this. But
Where we at? 283. At the bottom, he starts talking about geography. I have that highlighted right there.
Yes, go ahead, because I have that paragraph highlighted. Go ahead.
Geography plays a major role in Black employment patterns. At Bank America, Blacks did poorly during the recession because of attrition, combined with the fact that the company expanded in states that have low Black populations, such as Arizona and New Mexico, says spokesman Russ Carroll. Blacks accounted for 28.1% of the lost jobs, even though they made up just 7.9% of the company's workforce. However, it should be noted that a large part of the demographic shifts referred to by the journal are demographic shifts not to the Black population, but of the corporations themselves, shifts to the part of the country where Blacks are sparsely located, and it cannot be said that such shifts were purely arbitrarily or without racial motive.
Facts.
Wow.
Definitely can't leave that out, because they would probably argue that, well, there's more land over there.
Right.
But we smarter than that. Okay, so I didn't really have too much else on this page, if anybody else did.
Oh, sis, I had this entire, I thought you were going to keep on reading. I had that entire paragraph highlighted where he talks about shift to parts of the country where Blacks are sparsely. So it cannot be.
Well, I'll keep reading it.
Yeah, keep on reading.
For any current study of demographic shifts will reveal that the movement of some 10 million whites from America's inner cities have not only been to nearly exclusive white suburbs and edge cities, but in rapidly increasing numbers to once underpopulated states like Oregon, Nevada, Wyoming, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, the Dakotas, places known to harbor relatively very few Blacks. The corporations have led as well as followed the white exodus into the wilderness of the country, leaving severely shrunken or closed operations in the inner cities. Neither the journal nor the company spokesperson they interviewed apparently bothered to discuss the demographic shifts of Asians and Hispanics from their native lands to America, where they are apparently handedly competing with Black Americans for jobs. Neither did the journal bother to discuss in its analysis the deliberate recruiting of Asians by American corporations, where they just happen to be appropriately located and qualified to be recruited under the aegis of equal employment opportunity. When all is said and done, the following sums it up. Critics consider many companies' explanations about Black job losses hollow excuses designed to hide unspoken bias. Charles Wesley Poriotis, who heads Wesley Brown & Bartle, one of the nation's oldest minority firms, there's a deep sourceness in corporate America that had to hire minority professionals. Downsizing has been their first opportunity to strike back.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And when they downsize, who do they get rid of? They get rid of us.
That's right.
They have to be talking about Detroit because that's what happened with the auto industry. They moved it out of the European. Excuse me, I hate to say they, white people moved jobs out, the companies out of Detroit area, and moved to Dearborn, down south in Kentucky, and so that's what we had. Now the influx of those jobs moving out of Detroit, we had an influx of crime. That's when crime hit an all-time high because a lot of those jobs, a lot of our fathers was factory workers, and they lost those jobs, and crime went rampant here in Detroit.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So he says at the bottom, paradoxically, it seems that Blacks are becoming fast becoming the ignored minority in the rush of companies to increase the hiring of minorities and diversities in the workforce. Mm-hmm. Right. Mm. All right. So I don't have any. The only thing I have highlighted on page 285 is the General Accounting Office, the GAO. It says they did a study which also found that that Blacks suffered higher job losses than any other ethnic group. So first, Dr. Amos Wilson, in the previous page, he quoted from the Wall Street Journal in 1993 and 1994. But on page 285, he's quoting from the General Accounting Office a study that they conducted in 1994, or a study that they reported in 1994 on the 1990 to 1991 recession, and they're saying the same thing. Like, I don't think it's easy to really read the paragraph.
Yeah.
It's just the same thing that the journal said, that when they looked at the number of losses, the number of job losses, Blacks incurred the most. All right, when you compare it to Hispanics and whites and Asians. So I don't think we need to read that study. Now I'm on page 286 now. See, again, that's what he concludes with. Blacks and Hispanics had a greater chance of losing their jobs, even when age, education, gender, and occupation were taken into account.
Right.
The General Accounting Office concluded in its report. All right, the GAO report acknowledged that racial discrimination may account for some portion of the difference, even though it claimed that there is no way to measure its extent.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going into the next session, taking charge of economic destiny. You know, I put up a post on Facebook today, because you have a lot of brothers and sisters saying, look, man, if I don't do things if I'm not watching football on Sundays, what can I do? And so I put up a chart, and in the chart shows the wealth gap that exists, the racial wealth gap that exists between whites, blacks, and Hispanics. So I'm saying, instead of watching television or watching football on Sundays, let's address this racial wealth gap, right? There are other things that we can do, taking charge of our economic destiny. Someone start us off?
Well, here Baba starts talking about how we need to become more self-sufficient and more self-centered. And he says that, I'm here in the middle, family, we have not been reparted for our contributions to America, whether extorted from or voluntarily shared by us. We have never been the enemy of America in its wars, whether of imperial conquest or in self-defense. And yet we are told that those peoples who not only have not paid the price we have paid to become first-class citizens of America, but many of whom at one time were its enemies, are as immigrants allowed to enjoy rights not only equal to our own, but are to boast superior privileges. We should not let cries of reverse racism or our own rhetoric regarding racial equality and our sincere commitment to it prevent us from demanding our rightful and proportionate returns on our heavy investment in this nation. And this is what we were just talking about. We were just talking about reparations, and this is what Baba is saying. And he's saying that, you know, like, it's a slap in the face that we have basically are the foundation of this nation, yet we've never been properly acknowledged for that, and basically have been told to just shut the fuck up and work harder. But we watch all these other immigrants who are not from here and have at one point been enemies of the United States, but they are able to come in here and just reap the benefits, so to speak, that we have to struggle to attain.
Absolutely, sis. Absolutely. Absolutely. Did anyone want to add, or we're going to keep it moving?
She summed it up.
Okay, I'm assuming. All right, capitalism. The next subsection, capitalism as a system of social relations. And I love this because, sister, remember when we used to do, Sister Lima, remember when we used to do the tea talk with the sisters? Sister Monica Lamb would always say that economics, you know, I think she said economics is predicated on social relationships.
That's right.
She always stressed that economics is predicated on social relationships. So I love here how Dr. Amos Wilson, he's talking about economics, Robert L. Hellbronner. He says Norman Thomas, professor of economics at the New School for Social Research. He says that Hellbronner seems to corroborate our earlier contention that an economic system is not one wherein capital or money as capital is merely possessed individually by the members of a community, but that an economic system is more fundamentally a social system.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A system of organized social relations within a community of persons.
Right.
Economic social system. And we see that, Sister Lima, in how the U.S., let's look at it globally, how the U.S. deals with these other countries, right? They're dealing with the Europeans, they're dealing with the agents. They dealing. It's a social system. It's a system of relationships. All right, it's not just capital per se, right, or the possession of capital or the exchange of capital. He's saying that it's fundamentally a social system, a system of organized social relations within a community of persons. All right. So, you know, how do we expect people to spend? Because people say buy black, but we have to have good relationships with each other. You know, we have good relationships with one another in order for me to feel comfortable spending my money with you, right?
Even though technically you would think that we didn't, because we don't have any type of relationships with the people that we give our money to on the daily. I mean, none. We don't know these motherfuckers. We don't want to get to know them. Like, we don't care. But they can actually come out their face and say, we don't fucking like you niggas, and we still gonna give them money.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I've seen it in Baltimore. I've seen it in Baltimore where you know, where you know, brothers and sisters will go into a store because the Chinese guy or the Arab disrespected them. That same brother and sister go right back to the same Chinese man, same Arab who disrespected them.
You know, there was this rapper dude. I don't know if you heard of his name. Is Tory Lanez, and he was in a store and he felt that he was being harassed and everything because he was black. So his response is to spend $30,000 in the store.
More money.
I heard about that.
So
I heard about that, sis.
Somehow that somehow proves a point. Like what?
Nothing.
Proves a point that we don't like you and you still gave us 30 racks. Thank you, idiot.
Right.
Yep. Yep.
That's
Thank
low,
but that's what we do
racial,
because we feel that we're proving a point. Like, how dare you say I can't shop here? I'm going to shop here anyway. Like, what are you proving? I don't get it.
Isn't it the same thing Oprah went through?
Yeah.
When she went to the store over in Europe, I believe, and she was dressed down, and she and her biggest thing was, I'm Oprah. Of course, I can afford to shop here. Basically, it's not about that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You're still spending your money there. The point is this: why are you spending where they don't respect you?
Right.
I was going to the store. Go ahead, brother.
But we always will find a reason that we got to judge our brothers and our sisters to the 12th degree to spend $1.
That's right.
$1. It's like, I don't understand. And Sister Lima, I can feel your pain. When it comes down, we have to support each other, no matter what. And we have to build the communities. We have to support each other. But it's like pulling teeth.
That's right. It is.
You'll find 1,000 reasons not to. You know what I'm saying? But we have to change that whole dynamic for real.
We do.
I was going to Detroit here into a store, you know, a little convenience store, and there was a guy standing outside. He was older than I was, and he said, "Could you buy me a beer?" And I said, "Well, you know, he's definitely older. Definitely old enough to go in the beer. So why don't you go in the store and get it yourself?" He said, "They don't allow me to into the store. They spit on me and call me a nigger and won't let me come in the store."
Wow.
And he wanted me to go in the store with his money and buy him a beer.
Wow.
Well, damn.
I couldn't believe that. I was in shock that he still was standing in front of that store.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like, I'm going to make you love me.
Right.
Right. Like, what is it? What is it with that? Like, it's just
it's like a jilted lover.
right.
Stalker, like you
Like a stalker girlfriend, right?
I never went to that store again. I see that store.
I don't blame you, brother. I wouldn't go in there either.
We never go.
Oppressor stalkers.
That's right.
Crazy.
Because I went in there and I told him after I left, I said, "I wish you would have spit on me and called me a nigga." That's what I told him. That's what I told him.
Wow.
Well, they always do that type of stuff to the right ones, don't they? I say I ain't never got ran up on tested like that.
I would have strangled the life force out of him.
I know that's right. Yeah, the creator know better. You're not gonna send people like that our way.
She said the life force.
I like that.
She said the life force.
All right, come on, y'all. Let's get it.
All right, come on, y'all. 288.
7 more pages. I just wanted to say, okay, I wanted to finish reading this paragraph on 287.
Yes.
We said that
He argues.
yes, he argues persuasively that capital is therefore not a material thing, but a process. It is moreover a social process, not a physical one. Hellbronner, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing this correct. Y'all know I'm famous for messing up a word, but I keep it moving. Hellbronner goes on to argue that money in itself is not capital. It is money in use that is capital. All right. Capital is a web of social activities that permit metamorphosis of MCM, the process of a continuous transformation of capital as commodities, followed by the retransformation of capital as commodities into more capital as more money to take place. He elaborates further. At the center of this process is a social relationship between the owners of money and goods. So there's a social relationship with the people that own the money and goods, and monetary embodiments of capital, and the users of these embodiments carry on an activity of production on which their own livelihoods depend. The crux of this relationship lies in the right of exclusion. A central, although often ignored, meaning of property is that its owners can legally refuse to allow their possessions to be used by others.
Is that what Dr. Claude Anderson was talking about last night, sister?
Absolutely, absolutely.
That's exactly said. They will not do business with anybody else other than from themselves, you know?
Yeah, and he told the story of how, and he tells that story a whole lot, of how the black man went into the Asian store and he wanted the Asians to buy some products from him. So a brother goes into an Asian store and he says, look, I have some products I would like to sell. The Asian says, no, thank you, we're not buying. And he says, well, you know, I can give you, I think it was what, 20% or 30% discount off of the products that you're currently buying. And the Asian guy said, no, sir, you know, I'm not going to buy it from you. So then the brother said, well, I'll reduce, you know, the products in half. I'll cut your costs in half. And so the brother didn't understand it, but the Asian said, you don't get it. We don't buy from you. We buy from each other. So it didn't matter how much money we're going to buy from each other. You get what I'm saying? We're going to buy from each other. And that's the culture that these Asians are brought up in, that we're going to buy from each other. We don't care what you're offering. With black folks, oh, if we can get it cheaper, we might save $1. We'll go somewhere else. I had an incident, you know, and my cousin, she's probably in the chat room like now, and she probably saying that damn Deanna got a big mouth. Yesterday, family function. Yesterday we had a family function. You know, we wanted some fish and chicken. And so I said, yeah, let's go to Southern Blues Cafe, which is a black owned and operated restaurant here in Baltimore County. And they have wings and stuff. They have wings and fish for sale. So we're looking at the prices. So my cousin said, I want to get hip hop. Hip hop is owned by Arabs. So we're looking at the prices, and the Arabs were cheaper by 10 wings. So my cousin said, we're going to go ahead with this. We're going to go ahead with hip hop chicken. 10 wings. And so for 10 wings, these Arabs got $70 because we were able to get 10 additional wings. So we got to stop, brothers and sisters. Now, if it's something, I mean, I know that, like Sister Alima said, we can't tell folks how to, you know, spend their money. Brothers and sisters might want to, you know, save a couple dollars.
But come on now.
Damn,
some chicken.
Right.
10
Exactly.
wings.
Come on, sis. Some chicken though. God.
Plus they be jacking. Plus they be jacking the price. I don't go on them stuff.
Uh-oh.
I just couldn't see if I had a choice between getting chicken from some Arabs or my people that I'm gonna pick the Arabs.
Over the 10 wings. It was 10 wings, Sister Alima.
I wouldn't give a damn if it was 20. I want the black people wings. They're gonna taste better.
Yeah.
So for 10 wings, $70 went to hip hop chicken. Shawnee, I know you in the chat room, baby. I love you. I just had to tell the story, okay? Just had to tell the story, Nene. All right, so 288, the idea of capital as a social relationship leads directly to the core of that relationship, domination. All right, readily admitting that power welded by capital differs in subtle but substantial ways from owners of other aspects of social authority or coercive power under social conditions that make the withholding of capital an act of critical social consequence. Capital can exert its organizing and disciplining influence on the state, individuals, and groups in its commercial, social, and political interests. All right. So Hellbronner further contends that while the possession of substantial capital may or may not confer on its owners good repute, authority, or prestige, it does confer on them the ability. So here's where power comes into play, y'all. So it confers on them the ability to direct and mobilize the activities of society. It also confers on the owners, and I had this underlined, not highlighted, but underlined. It also confers on the owners of the goods that constitute wealth, an attribute that goes beyond prestige and preeminence. This is power. He rightly concludes that wealth is therefore a social category inseparable from power. I'm going to say that again. Wealth is therefore a social category inseparable of power. So he goes on to say, and I had this underlined, and we talked about this earlier, that wealth cannot exist unless there also exists a condition of scarcity, not an insufficiency of resources themselves, but an insufficiency, but insufficiency of means of access to the resources. So as Brother T has been saying, and Dr. Amos Wilson, we've been systematically locked out of wealth by denial of the access to the resources.
Exactly.
Right.
All right. All right. So can someone please read this paragraph at the top of 89? I thought that this was powerful on the domination of human society. Can someone take it from there?
Domination in human society, Hellbronner cogently points out, entails a structured inequality of life conditions that has no parallel in the animal world. Moreover, he forthrightly reminds us that the insatiable drive to amass wealth, which is probably the most obvious characteristic of capitalism and of the capitalists, is inextricable from power and incomprehensible except as a form of power. He says elsewhere that the process of accumulating capital is pursued in part because it is the manner in which the dominant class expresses and renews its social control. He pointedly asserts that capitalism is the regime of capital, the form of rulership we find when power takes the remarkable aspect of the domination by those who control access to the means of production of the great majority who must gain employment. It should be an obvious and compelling conclusion that if African Americans and Africans across the diaspora are to achieve their liberation from white domination, whose ruling instrument is the regime of capital, they must either overthrow or subvert white capitalism, bring it crashing like Humpty Dumpty hard to the earth, or masterfully wrest it from the hands of their white masters and victoriously fight fire with fire. But before we blare the clarion call of final battle, we must honestly assess our current position, resources, and potentialities, and those of our adversaries. For it is such assessments a winning set of strategies and tactics must be derived.
All right, sis, kick it off, sis.
A contrarian point of view. Paul Krugman, professor of economics at Stanford University, is one of the most prominent of these. He's talking about the reconfiguration of the workforce. And in a recent article in the prestigious journal, Foreign Policy Summer 94, titled Europe Jobless, America Penniless, Krugman makes the following argument. Most people who worry about growing earnings disparities in the United States and rising unemployment in Europe blame those trends on international trade. The pressure of global competition, in particular from newly industrialized countries with their much lower wage rates, is widely believed to be the fundamental cause of the decline in wages and jobs for the less skilled. He goes on to mention other things that he says that the basic point in all these studies is that if international trade reduces an economy's demand for unskilled labor, it does so by changing the industrial mix. And he says that in the U.S. responds to growing world economic integration by producing more skilled intensive goods like aircrafts, garments, etc., and hence to build up the wages of the former, drive down the wages of the latter. So then he goes on at the end of that paragraph, he says the pervasiveness of the shift toward highly skilled labor suggests that the explanation for growing inequality lies not in international trade, which affects labor demand by changing the mix of industries, but in technological changes that have reduced the demand for the worst paid workers in all industries. So he's saying that he's giving us a different point of view. And he's saying that industrial, them moving jobs overseas and things like that is not a big issue as far as jobs over here in America, the losses. He's saying that the losses is because America is not as technologically savvy as its competitors. I can agree and disagree.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, moving on. Krugman spoke of the appearance of the current recovery. He's talking about the recovery of the economy here at the bottom, family. As this article was being written, the Bureau of Labor Statistics announced a sharp fall in the U.S. unemployment rate. Most economists expect that rate to decline even further, eventually approaching the 5.5% level generally regarded as full employment. It is also probable, though by no means certain, that within a year or two, recovery will begin in Europe and Japan. As growth accelerates and number of jobless falls, much of the current despondency over the state of the world economy will surely dissipate. Stories about the jobless recovery will fade from the press to be replaced with upbeat tales of business success. And that made me think about anytime there's anything really prominent happening, well, detrimental rather, happening in the economy, it always just, it's like they focus on it for like a few weeks, like really, really heavy. And then all of a sudden there's all these great stories of new jobs and new economies and just different things to kind of get your mind off of it to make you think that, okay, well, maybe it's not as bad as we think it is, or maybe it's actually getting better. Okay, let's move on. I didn't have anything in the second paragraph on 291. Third paragraph, the failure of that promise may be summarized by two words, jobs and wages. For a generation after World War II, the economies of the West offered both. That is, there were jobs for the great bulk of those who wanted them, and those jobs paid wages whose purchasing power rose steadily for just about everyone. Since the early 1970s, however, the economies of North America and Western Europe have not delivered that kind of broad prosperity. In the United States, the problem is essentially one of wages. And we all know that basically is we have a wage disparity gaps here like crazy, you know, because the average service worker, of course, they make minimum wage as compared to like the average person in a corporation. They make upwards as much as 10 to 20 times more than a service worker makes per year.
Are you on page 291, Queen?
291, I'm on at ironically. So it starts talking about the rise of poverty and unemployment in Western world over the last 20 years. He said it's taken a place in time of technological progress. He says that progress has not quite resulted in the productivity growth that one might have expected. Blah, blah, blah. Where are we? Yet the economies of the advanced countries are by any measure substantially richer and more productive than they were in the 1970s.
Yeah, so did you already read that, the paragraph that preceded this one when it talks about the failure, like he's talking about the promise of economic growth, and then he says the failure of that promise can be summarized by two words, jobs and wages?
Yeah, I just read that.
Okay, my bad. Okay, all right. I'm catching up.
Okay. Last paragraph at the bottom, talk about Krugman sees economic forces as splitting America and European societies in two. The society will be composed of those who have good jobs and whose standard of living continue to rise, and those who are faced either with falling incomes, or the prospect of more or less permanent life on the dole. He's saying that that's how life is going to be. And of course, we know that this was written in the 90s, but that is how it is now. That's really all I had there. To the next section, the economic future of the African American economy or community. Okay,
so I'll take it from here because I thought this was important. Krugman. So Krugman, falling incomes, the prospect of more or less the permanent dole. So interestingly, Krugman does not see the upgrading of the skills and education of workers as resolving this socially disturbing trend, at least not immediately. And that's what Dr. Claude Anderson spoke about last night. We keep saying we want to send our children to school to get more education and more skills. But he just said, interestingly, Krugman does not see the upgrading of the skills and education of workers as resolving this problem, of resolving this socially disturbing trend, at least not immediately. While acknowledging that the trend towards growing economic inequalities is likely to reverse itself, he suggests that this reversal may take more than a decade. He notes that the Industrial Revolution created high inequalities in its first half century, but eventually produced a middle-class society of unprecedented affluence. The Information Revolution, which we're in right now, the Information Revolution will probably do the same. Unfortunately, the crisis of jobs and wages is here now and will not go away anytime soon. Krugman suggests that retraining and raising the quality of basic education will not have an impact on labor markets for at least a decade. And again, like you said, Sister Lee, this book was written or published in 1998.
Right.
You know, we're looking at 20 years ago. But, you know, a lot of the information is still relevant.
That's right.
It's still very relevant. But sis, going back to something you said on page 290, when you read the last paragraph, it says the pervasiveness of the shift towards highly skilled labor suggests that the explanation for growing inequality lies not in international trade, but affects labor demand by changing the mix of industries, but in technological changes that have reduced the demand for worse paid workers in all of the industries. I interpreted that statement to mean that that with the technology, with the technological changes. So for example, there's certain jobs that we needed done decades ago that now computers can do.
Right.
So, you know, like now for bookkeeping, I can just use Microsoft Excel, or we can use QuickBooks. So I don't need a team of people. Remember how that movie Hidden Figures? Remember in Hidden Figures, initially they had like a department of Black women who were called human computers.
Right.
Remember, they started getting them out. They were getting ready to close that department, or they did close that department, because they brought in actual computers that could do the jobs that these women could do. So what they decided to do was learn how these computers operate. And I think the computer language that they were using was Fortran, which was like the computer language that IBM was using, I believe, back in like the late 1970s,
60s, 70s.
70s, and even early 80s. I don't think they use Fortran anymore. But so remember the supervisor of that team in the movie, she said, okay, they're going to shut down our department because now they have computers that do our jobs, but we can make ourselves indispensable by learning how to program these computers. So then they train themselves on learning Fortran. I just wanted to provide you all with that example, just to say that I think what he meant in that statement was that with the shift in technology, that there were jobs that, you know, we once paid people to do, we no longer need them to do that. That's how I interpret it.
How was that movie?
I interpreted it the same.
Dr. Maat, how was that movie? I haven't seen that movie yet.
That was a good movie.
It was a great movie. Taraji did all of the women did a good job. I don't want to
really good.
I'll watch it tonight. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah, it was really good.
Okay.
It was an excellent movie. Excellent movie and great history.
I think it's good to watch, you know,
for
little Black girls. Black girls should watch it. It's inspiration. Absolutely. It inspired me.
Yeah, they said that
Absolutely.
part. They said that part though, where he wouldn't tear down the sign. That was completely.
It was fake.
That was.
Yeah, that was fake.
Yeah.
That, you know they gotta butter us up in the rest of this. You know they gotta butter us up.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. You know, see, we ain't all. That's that never happened. She continued to have to walk all the way over there to go to the black bathroom.
Yeah, it looked too fake to be real, honestly.
Yeah, you know.
Absolutely. Last subsection, 1 page. Well, I do want to discuss this chart on page 293.
Yes.
And then we have one little paragraph left. So we're getting there, family. We have this paragraph right here, and then we have this. So hold tight. We got 18 people viewing right now. So hold tight, family. All right. I don't want people to start clicking off like, man, it's 9 o'clock. Boop. I mean, just hold tight, family. We're almost there. We're getting there. Economic future of the African American community. This is very, very important, family. All right. So can somebody kick it off, please? Somebody kick it off. Sister Alima and I.
Somebody different, exactly. Come on, brother.
One of the brothers.
Come on,
Yeah.
Oh, he done muted his mic.
Okay. Whether the reader accepts our earlier general analysis of the changing character of the American workforce.
He can unmute it. I had muted it because it was making a bunch of noise.
I thought he did it.
Oh, no. Go ahead, Brother T. I'm sorry.
T.
Okay. Whether the reader accepts our earlier general analysis of the changing character of the American workforce, American employment trends, and income inequalities or Krugman's analysis, the outcome for the African American community is generally the same. High levels of unemployment and underemployment. Even with full employment, the unemployment rate of Black community will average around 13%. This point is corroborated by an analysis of this matter by economist Andrew F. Bremer, former member of the Federal Reserve Board, now president of the Bremer and Company, Inc. His analysis reported by Black Enterprise in an article entitled "No Real Recovery for Black Jobs or Incomes" includes the following information. The economy is picking up steam. However, economist Andrew F. Bremer, president of Bremer Company, Inc., says that while the progress of Black Americans will improve slightly, the Black population and labor force will grow faster than their share of employment and income. You hear that? So,
we're basically reproducing at a faster rate than the number of jobs available.
Exactly.
Jobs available. This year, Black civilian labor force should grow 14.4 million to 11.1% of the total workforce versus 14.1 million or 11% of the total in 1993. African American employment, meanwhile, is likely to hit 12.6 million to 32 of total employment versus 12.2 million or 10.2% last year. This means that there will be nearly 1 million more Black workers in 1994 than there are jobs for them. As the nation's gross domestic product picks up, Black unemployment will be slightly lower than last year, but it will stand 2.27 times what the whites. Black joblessness is projected to average 1.83 million in 1994, or 23.2%. And we know today, they say what is 51%?
Right.
So those unemployed versus 1.89 million, or 21.7 last year, that translates into the Black unemployment rate of 12.7% this year versus 13.4 in 1993. By contrast, total unemployment in the U.S. may dip to 6.1%. I think Dr. Anna said 7.1 now?
Yep, 7.1.
Versus 6.7 last year, and to 5.2% for whites versus 5.9 in 1993. But on the bright side, if Black employment grows, so does Black money, income. Of course, the parity share of money income would be larger income. Of course, the parity, if Blacks were employed in numbers equal to the share of the civilian labor force, in 1994, total U.S. money income is projected to be 4.17 trillion, and the Black share may rise to 319.8 billion, or 7.7 of the total U.S. income versus 300.6 billion, or 7.6% last year. If Blacks received a parity share of income, their share would rise to 142.6 billion more this year. In the last paragraph, the average unemployment rate for African Americans, the average unemployment rate for African American teenagers and young adults is likely to be many times higher than the average rate for Blacks as a whole. Many members of the Black community who will be employed will be part-time employees or will be employed at a minimum wage. We see that today, right?
Yep.
Many will belong to the class of the working poor. This implies that the African American community must fully and vigorously exercise the few options it has available to it. These options include a more effective push from affirmative action and struggle against racial discrimination in the workplace, a massive increase in the quality of African American human resources, increase in the level of job skills, training and education, political agitation for the passage of earned income tax credit or the negative income tax legislation. And we already know that those things are being cut 2018.
Yep.
Right.
So basically, you see the trend has already came to fruition. 51% of African American youth are unemployed. All the trade centers have been closed down here in Baltimore.
Yep.
It used to be the pipeline from high school, trade center, and then business or college. Now it's just high school, prison.
Right.
Some have the right, they can go to college. So
Hey,
it's like,
hey, brother.
yes.
Let me say this, man, and it pains me to say this as a mental health advocate. What's going to happen in the next 5 to 7 years is that you're going to see a growth in job openings for persons. When I say it pains me to say this, persons with Asperger's or autism, they're opening up jobs left and right for these persons. And again, I'm a mental health advocate, but I've been sitting in these so-called think tanks, as Dr. Wilson talked about a few weeks ago. And I'm sitting here like, oh my God, is this really happening before my eyes? So what's going on is they're creating these positions for job coaches and re-engineering specialists, as we're called, to go in and train these persons with these disabilities to be hired in these positions. And I'm like, wait a minute, these are jobs that our brothers and sisters could do. But is this like a conditioning process, or is this a push out process to include them, to exclude us? Now I know those who are sensitive to that issue understand where I'm coming from, because persons with those disabilities deserve a chance, because that's the population that I work with. But at the same time, what you're saying, it's like it's always something created to keep us out.
Right.
And I'm telling you, as I speak, November 2017, watch what I say. 5 years from now, there is a push, okay, for this population, persons with disabilities or certain barriers, okay, and we're going to continue, and I'm for that. That's my profession. But those type of jobs we could be holding and making more money. I'm just saying it's a sensitive issue, but I'm gonna let the panel continue.
It's just like and you're absolutely correct. I believe, but it almost goes and say about immigration. When you hear blacks say, all right, slow down at the border. People call you xenophobic. But think about this. If more people come in and grab those entry-level jobs, where are our black youths going to work? So we have to look at it and say, okay, what are we going to build for our children in order to work? But if you say that as being a Pan-Africanist, they'll call you xenophobic.
Well, those all terms make you feel guilty for caring about yourself, because they care about themselves. And when you go to these people's countries, you can't own anything. You can't get a job there over their own people. That's not going to happen. And I've been all over the world, so I can definitely say that. Them first, and they might even ignore you in the store. Or just walk away from you if you don't speak the same language. Or
That's fact.
Yeah. So
But it's just crazy how we, or they, excuse me, continue to create situations or scenarios to put us on the bottom rung of the ladder. You know what I'm saying? It's sad. We just have
Yeah,
to.
I don't see why if you have. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Go ahead, sis.
I was gonna say I don't see why you have to bring workers in when you have a unemployment rate of 51%. That says it all.
Well, Sister Lima said it earlier. Who represents Black America? Who represents us? Who's going to speak for us? So when that does happen, they say, "Hold up. I need to hire us first." There's no one saying it, so we just continue being stepped on. You know.
That's right.
But Brother T, read the last two lines.
What did I read?
Tax legislation, i.e. the provision.
Okay, 1 second. I left. Say it again. I left off where?
At the earned income tax credit or negative income tax legislation, i.e.
Oh, got you. Okay, let's see where I'm at. Increased level of job skills, training, and education. Political agitation for the passage of earned income tax credit or negative income tax legislation, i.e. the provision of income supports to gradually taper off as income rises, and the increase of Black wealth and employment through the economic expansion of the Black community, mainly through the ownership of business enterprise and equity investments and income earning resources. We shall discuss the later option throughout the rest of this volume.
Yeah, so basically he's saying that we need to own business enterprises. And he said in equity investments in income earning resources. So we need resources and we need businesses. All right, that's the bottom line. So next week, join us. We'll be going over chapter 13. We'll be discussing chapter 13. I'm trying to look and see how many pages. Oh, this is
like
a short
8
chapter.
pages. But chapter 14 is really long.
Oh my Lord. So Bible hit us with a
He gave us a breather and then it's right back at it again. Yes.
Oh my gosh, race and economics. I know. Oh,
it's like 40, 50 pages or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let me see. 365. Oh. Okay, so 58 pages for chapter 14. So let me ask you a question, guys. Do you all want to read chapter 13 and just have a breather and read chapter 13, discuss? Or do you want to read chapter 13, half of chapter 14, or third of chapter 14? What do you guys want to do?
Read chapter 13, and then we'll split up 14 the next 2 weeks after.
Hey, let's do it. So chapter 13, hell, I can read this in a day.
Then that'll give us some time to build on some other things after we get finished.
All right, and then hopefully I can have Dr. Claude Anderson's lecture by that time.
Yeah, that'd be a good time to watch it.
Yeah.
All right, Sister Alima, tell folks where to find you because we were talking about some.
Before you start, I know you usually do the rundown of what you do, but could you please, if it's not tonight, maybe next week, read "Let's Stay Together" from your poem, from your
okay.
book.
Oh.
I like that. I like that.
I think it needs to be read. Let's stay together.
Let me go get my book. Let me go get my book so we can put it in the air.
I will do that. I have no problem to. I would love to. Well, family, let me get my screen together so you can see my screen. As you know, my name is Lily LaPoete Speaks. Every week, you can get the links to join us on the panel or to join the discussion at lilylapoetespeaks.com. This thing is so slow. Okay, can y'all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
No, not yet.
Not yet? Okay. Okay, there we go. Dr. Maat is holding up the Critically Acclaimed Perceptions of a Misplaced African Volume 1. If you don't have that yet, family, you should cop that. It is on sale. It's half off, and it'll only be half off for another 2 days. You can come up here, family. Lily La Poete Speaks. You can get the links every week to join us on the RAM Book Club. You go to RAM Book Club, and then you go down to Blueprint for Black Power. When you get there, you scroll to the bottom, family, and then you will find the active discussion links that we need according to the chapter that we're doing. We also have a blog. You can subscribe to my blog, go to blog and current events, and then click down and click on Lily La Poete, well, Lily's blog, sorry. You can also find the Blueprint for Black Power thread, family. We need to utilize it. We still have not utilized the Blueprint for Black Power threads, where we can talk throughout the week about different things that's going on, or different things that, you know, we read throughout the week, and maybe we want to post something on Facebook, and maybe instead of posting it on Facebook, you know, we can come over here and we can post it on the page or whatever. So you can also go to the Marketplace, family, and we got some things from the RAM Book Club. You can get your copy of Perceptions of a Misplaced African. You can also get your copy. We got a few more left, right, Dr. Maat?
We have about 6 left. And I'm shipping out another one tomorrow, so we'll have 5 left.
Okay, so we got 5 signed copies by Brother Sababu, the editor and good friend of Baba Amos Wilson. So if you don't have yours yet, get yours, family, and you can also get the 2-for-1, or you can get Aaron Knows About Africa. And once again, I'm Lily La Poete Speaks, and thank you for joining us. Let me cut this off. Okay.
All right, and family, when we ask you to support a product, we're not asking you to support it. You know how people ask you to support something, but they don't have it. When we say that it's a product and we ask you to support it, we're asking you to support it because we have it. All right, so I'm holding a physical copy in my hand of Perception of a Misplaced African. Please get the book, and as you can see, it was definitely read. So
I have mine on Amazon, but I got it from Amazon. It's on my Kindle.
Whoop, whoop, whoop.
It's everywhere I go.
That's right. Take it with you.
So I see you have my little niecey in front of you, so she's going to be familiar with this. Let me share my screen.
Hi, little mama.
Say hello.
Lele. Lele, what is this, Lele? Hold on, what's that, Lele?
Oh, what is it? No, you know what it is.
What's that, Lele?
Chanel.
She's acting shy, Brother T.
Uh-huh.
You're not talking to us.
What's that?
You know what it is? She had a Meltrack birthday party. So anyway, head over, Black Friday's coming up, Christmas coming up, Kwanzaa's coming up. Head over to edanimeproductions.com/shop. Please purchase your Meltrack products. We had to control what our babies are watching. I mean, I've been looking at a lot of these animation these days, and I'm telling you, the messages that are being projected by these animations are, oh, Lord have mercy. But anyway, I'm not even gonna get into it because Sister Lima say, Dr. Maat, you rambling. So I'm gonna make this short and sweet. Head to edanimeproductions.com/forward/shop to purchase your Meltrack products. We have two films available for the Meltrack series. We have Meltrack episode 1, Exploring Ancient Africa. The objective of this episode is to teach children that our history does not begin with slavery, but it begins with civilization and humanity. We have Meltrack episode 2, which teaches children about the Aboriginal cultures of the Americas and also about the African presence in the Americas prior to Christopher Columbus. So we have DVDs available. We also have books available. This book is getting ready to drop. Meltrack Ancient Africa storybook. It should be available. Hopefully, I'm gonna try this week and out to the folks who have already purchased it. All right. We also have a Pearl available. So we have T-shirts, we have hoodies. We're getting ready to get sweatpants and all sorts of things available. So please visit edanimeproductions.com/shop. Get your child this for Christmas or Kwanzaa or on Black Friday. We'll have a lot of great deals.
That's right.
All right. I'm not going to play the commercial. I'm just going to go ahead and pass the mic, but make sure you support, family. Peace and power.
Meltrack, get your copy, family.
Thanks, sis.
Got mine.
I'm next. I gotta get that. All right, family. I'm Camille Gaynor Jones. I'm a drummer, a musician, a teacher, a lecturer. I have the CD out, A Girl from Queens, and it's important that our children and even ourselves taking music that is, you know, positive and uplifting.
Yes.
You know, so that's it's important what we take in. So you can go by my website, www.camillegainerjones.com, to pick up a copy. And also my instructional DVD for the young musician in your house. And I love being here, being a part of the book club with the family, and just trying to enlighten and, you know, help our people on our journey for salvation. Ashe.
Okay.
Ashe.
Is that it?
I'm about to say, hold on, where the brothers? I mean, where brother Impu clicked off. I think brother Impu got out of there.
Yeah, his wife said, come on.
Yep. So brother T, let him know where to find you, and brother Travis, let him know where to find you.
Okay.
And brother Johnson Toe, you can find me on Facebook under Tiwolo Johnson. It's not really much going on right now, other than just me trying to keep busy, taking care of little princess here and family. But definitely enjoyed the conversation tonight. Thank you, everyone on the panel.
Indeed.
Black Power family, this brother Travis, aka Shemsu Netcher out of Detroit. I can be reached at Shemsu Netcher on Facebook. I'm an IT professional here in Detroit. I also do web development, and I'm an avid student of the Medunetter. Peace.
All right.
All right, so we'll see you guys next. I just wanted to shout out I just want to salute everyone in the chat room. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it. Just want to thank everybody. Please spread the word and tell folks about the resurgence of the African mind. We will be reading some powerful, powerful books.
Yes.
We're tackling a very, very powerful book. I mean, this was our first book. So right now, I feel like we're setting the precedent.
Exactly.
Of the type of information that we will be covering in book club. So, you know, we came with Blueprint for Black Power. We'll definitely be reading books by Marimba Ani, the Yorugu. We're going to be reading books by Dr. Malife Asante. Yes, we'll be reading books by him, books by Baba Baruti. We'll be getting into the Dr. Benz, Dr. John Henry Clark's. I mean, I'm telling you, this is a very, very important book. I mean, very, very important book club, man. And we're going to be tackling some heavy hitters, man, and some deep information. Please spread the word. Let folks know where they can find us every Sunday from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this channel. Tell them about LiliLaPoeteSpeaks.com. That's where all the links will be. But we should have, I mean, I'm telling you, Sister Lima, it kills me that when you have an excuse, I can't even say it because Nisi right there. But, you know, students, you know, you got folks that will run and join a beer gang club. Millions of people.
Yes, Queen. Yes.
But when you have, you know, a book club that's saying, okay, let's liberate our minds so we can get free. You have 19 viewers.
Right.
You dig? 19 viewers. So here it is, a book club that's focused on liberating the minds of Black people so that we can build something, so that we can save ourselves.
That's right.
And we have 19 viewers. But the beer gang, I think they said within 45 days accumulated 1 million followers.
Yep.
I'm telling you, sis, our values, it all goes back to our values. What do you value? And it just, you know, the 19 people that, you know, that tuned in, and then us included on this panel, you clearly see that we value our freedom, we value our minds, we value our families, we value information. And so I'm telling you, we need a whole cultural reform. And let me, I just want to say one thing. Hold on, let me grab this book. Let me grab a book in closing, because I know we get ready to close out. I want to quote from Dr. Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson. Just want to say this. This is from his book, Power Economics. So we know that your culture, you get your values from your culture. True or false, Sister Alima? It comes from your culture.
Very true.
Right? Mm-hmm. So in order to usher in new values, we need a new culture, right? Mm-hmm. So let me tell you how important culture is. This is on page 35, chapter 2 of Power Economics. You see, I have my little tabby folded down. He said the first key to empowerment an empowerment culture. Since humans rely on culture for survival, culture is an essential empowerment tool for Black Americans. Culture usually refers to the norms or systems of behavior and shared values that are passed on from one generation to another. Essentially, culture is a script that is never neutral in its purposes. It either empowers or disempowers a group. What it does to a group depends in large measure upon the position the group holds in the societal pecking order of acceptability, and whether they are an in-group or an out-group. We're definitely an out-group people. Culture's most important function is to promote cohesiveness and trust that bind members together through values. There's that word again. Values such as group loyalty, pride, and respect. It is through culture that the members of a group know who and what they are and how to behave. So family, we got to get back to our culture. I'm not even gonna say get back to our culture. We had to get back to teaching ourselves and adopting a culture that is conducive to our growth and development and advancement. All right. I just want to leave you with that, family. I love you. And I'm done, family. I'm tapped out, Sister Alima. Any last words, sis?
Nope. Peace and love.
Peace.
Peace and love.